and welcome to Leading with Connection. I'm Charlotte Jamison, your host, and today I'm here with Christine Muscat from CLM Solutions. Christine, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm really excited to jump into this conversation because you are coming from an HR
Yes.
perspective and you've had 12 years in the industry. So you were explaining before that you've seen a little bit of a change. And I'm really interested to hear what leaders can do from your perspective to move with the times, so to speak. So would you just start us off by sharing a little bit about your experience today?
Yeah, definitely. Exactly following on from what you said. I've been in the HR world for over 12 years now, and there's been a lot of changes over the last 12 years. We went through a period of COVID and a lot of people working from home. So there's been lots of different shifts over the years, and the way we educate and train staff is, there's so many different new techniques and different ways of learning. And I think from being in the world of HR, it's educating managers and CEOs and directors that when you started the business 20 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, it's different, it's shifted. And how you were taught back then is probably not necessarily how you would teach, the younger generation or how you would teach now. Like we were talking about earlier before, the world of AI, it's blown up. So it's trying to find what works for your company, what works for your business, what message, how does it get through to the team? Managers have to kind of adapt to the change. They might have a meeting with them and then, or training them, and it might not work. And they'll teach them again and show them again. Okay, it's not working. Okay, I'm going to show them again. Like, how many times are you going to go out of your day, out of your job to keep training them and going over the same thing? That's when you need to take a step back and, okay, that's not working. What else can I do to get the message across? How else am I going to educate them? How am I going to train them? It's trying to find what works.
And that takes effort. That takes effort for a leader because on top of their job, they have to then go, okay, who have I got in my team and how do I best connect with them? And I think that's effort and time that a lot of leaders really don't have. And
No,
not because they're a bad person, not because they intentionally want to lead ineffectively, but because we're human
that's right.
and because it does take energy. And I had the pleasure of listening to Esther Perel the other week at a leadership conference. And she was saying, we used to sort of look at bringing the whole person to work. That was sort of like the new way of, yep, bring the whole person to work. She's like, but now people bring the whole world
Mm,
to work. And if you think about it, that's so true. What we've got going on in the Middle East, the cost of living, AI, all the things, and that's with as well the dissipation of community programs, like, whether it's like religion, church on a
yes.
Sunday and those sorts of things. So people are bringing to work their existential needs as well as all their worldly problems. And it is really a different way of leading,
It,
isn't it?
it honestly, it is, and back then I feel that a lot of owners used to be like, you know what? You're at work, you're at work. Don't talk about home. What happens at home stays at home. When you're at work, you focus on work. Where this day and age, it's not like that anymore. If someone's going through a divorce or they've been cheated on or something like that, it affects them. It really does. And the manager has to factor that in. You look, okay, they might not be 100% because they have a personal situation going on at home. And it's just changed. Like, you just, it's a little bit more precious, I suppose, than what it used to be. You,
Well, that's what some leaders. I run a number of listening sessions for psychosocial hazard
yes,
discussions, and a number of leaders who aren't necessarily used to it do sort of see that as as precious, and I'd love to kind of help people reframe it as, well, it's human, it's kind of
yeah,
it's human skills, and
exactly.
it's leading the human. So given that, what works really well have you found to lead, especially these younger
Yeah.
generations coming in, like what works?
I think it depends on the industry. It depends on the
Mm,
industry and the position and their role. So since COVID, a lot of people still work from home. or they have that sort of
Yeah.
3 days from home, 2 days in the office, or vice versa. So, or there's a lot of people out on the road. There's a lot of sales reps, a lot of education managers. So checking in regularly, doing a lot of teams. I use a program called Bloom, which is like screen
Mm,
recording. And for me, it works amazing with my team because as I go through things, I can either talk to it, I can do screen recording. They can watch it at any time they like. They can go back to it, they can watch it, they can rewatch it. They can watch it 15,000 times if they really wanted to. And for me, I can say to them, have you watched the video? Instead of me repeating the training session or kind of re-going through all that, I can say, did you watch the loom? Did you watch the loom? Was there something you missed on the loom? Were you not getting enough? Was there, and just sort of dig a little bit deeper to see what they are struggling with. Is it the whole thing? If it's the whole issue, then obviously, they haven't watched it, they haven't been paying attention. But, I find asking questions is a good indication as a manager and running a team to be like, okay, where are they struggling? How can I help them? And identifying those areas. You know,
and I think it's important how you ask the question because you can ask it in a kind of a jerky way, can't you?
yeah.
Or you can ask it in a way that is full of compassion and feel full of curiosity
Hmm.
and just going, okay, what didn't make sense? Like what, yeah, where's the little roadblock here and help me understand kind of thing, whilst keeping them to account. And I think this is really important when we do deal, especially with the younger, not deal with, when we do work with when we do work with the younger generations,
Hmm.
is to keep them accountable. I have done this video and I expect you to watch it,
Hmm.
but also treat it with compassion. And Nate Regier talks about this compassionate accountability mindset where it is really about validating the person. Okay, I see you, I hear you, something didn't make sense. I want your input. So capability, I want your input. I want you to tell me what worked, what didn't for you. But also I want your responsibility. So I want to make sure that we agree that this is what we're doing
Yeah,
going forward. And you need to keep yourself account.
definitely. And
Yeah.
I think as well, the younger generation that's coming through, they want to feel that what they say is, that they have input and that you actually care about what they're going to say. So by you asking them, how do you think we can improve? Or was it too lengthy? Do you think we can shorten it? How can we dial it back? How can we take it to the next step? Getting them to sort of think gives them a little bit more interest and gets them thinking a
Mm,
little bit more. And it'll help you as well as a manager. And it makes them feel like, yeah, you know what? They're actually listening to what I feel. And that comes back down to company culture as well, feeling valued,
mm,
feeling wanted.
yeah. And psychological safety. I value your opinion. You are able to speak up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So what doesn't work then? What have you seen that doesn't work in terms of working with the younger generations?
Oh my, good question. Um, the delivery, the delivery of how you ask them to do something or educate them or train them, especially in specific industries, I feel is probably worse than others. Saying, I told you to make sure you turn that machine off before blah blah blah. It's the tone, it's how you come across, it's the way you speak to them. They can be taken back by it. They can be like, "Oh wow, it doesn't feel nice. Like no one wants to be shouted at, no one wants to be yelled at, no one wants to be, directed at. It's the tone, it's that approach. Some people do love hard love, but it's being a manager, you've got to deal with all different personalities, really.
Yeah, it's like a coach of a sporting
Yeah.
team. Some people really love, the discipline approach.
Yes.
Some people love the softly approach. And you've got to know your people. I think it comes down to that, doesn't it? But interestingly, this idea of because I think you focus on the construction industry as well. Is that right?
Yeah,
You have
predominantly yes, but I do other industries,
predominantly.
but yeah, mostly construction, trade industry.
Because that's my background, heavy industry, construction industry. And certainly when I was in amongst the safety teams,
Mm.
I used to. hear on site a lot of like, oh, give him a spoonful of cement kind of thing, harden up, and that's kind of the way it rolled.
Hmm.
Certainly historically it was develop a thick skin, and we can call each other things, we can shout at each other, and that's okay. And it's no longer okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And it matters. It does.
I going a little bit off topic, but I actually had one of my clients who's in the construction industry, so on-site toilets. Typical guys, they can use a portaloo, no problem. They can go on the grass if they really wanted to. But the generation that's coming through is women. Women are becoming into the tradie industry, which is fantastic. It's great. But their client didn't factor in that, this portable toilet didn't have a bin, a sanitary bin,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And I said to my client, look, you have to look after your employee. And he's like, well, it's a client. And I said, look, you know what? You're going to have to buy a bin and you're going to have to put it in there. Because imagine being the employee and how she would feel, how uncomfortable, and then you got to walk out
yeah,
there with all the tradies. So, it's
yeah,
those little sort
yeah,
of changes, I suppose,
yeah.
that happen.
Yeah, that's huge. And I can understand what it feels like to walk out of a Portaloo with a whole lot of tradies, well, with a whole lot of on-site. So I it was a fracking company. Anyway, it was like a construction, and we were on site, and there was a Portaloo that we had to use. And I remember all the guys were sort of standing around having their smoko, and I was training in the psychology behind safe behavior. So I we were on a break, and I come out of the toilet. Unbeknownst to me, I had toilet paper not on my foot. You know how a lot of people sort of just like, I had toilet paper.
Oh, oh no.
I had pulled up my
Oh
jeans,
no.
and the toilet paper had just from the side of the thing, I had just got caught in it. So
Oh,
I
oh.
had a tail of toilet paper base. It was all clean, it was
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
But I had no idea, right? And the boys were all lined up having their smoko, almost like a guard of honor in a way.
Oh my gosh.
Walking through them. And, they're sort of looking at me, but I didn't really think much of it.
Oh,
You usually get a lot of
yeah.
looks when you're the only female on site.
Yeah.
And and I just walked up back into the training room or whatever. And one of the really sweet guys came up. He goes, "Oh, Charlie, I just wanted to let you know that you've got some toilet paper stuck in your bag."
Oh, oh,
Anyway, I never lived that one down. But it was, yeah. I mean, they were actually really nice to me and really lovely. But and that could have happened anywhere, not just a Portaloo. But I do understand what it's like to exit a Portaloo when there's lots of men around, and yeah, if there wasn't a sanitary bin and that sort of thing,
yeah.
it would, yeah, it's just not nice. You don't have to
No.
experience
And
that.
exactly like what
Yeah,
you just said, being a female, I mean, you stand out like a sore thumb, So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Fun, fun, fun.
And I think
Again,
as well, managers have to bear in mind that bullying and harassment these days, even though their approach can come across as bullying. I'm being bullied. I'm being told this. I'm being told that. They're being too assertive. They're being too direct. I was reading some stats the other day, and last year there was, I think, don't quote me wrong, but I think it was about 54% bullying and harassment claims went through Fair Work, more than the
oh
year
really?
before. That's a lot. And every business owner I'm speaking to at the moment is just like, oh, I'm going through workers' comp, dealing with bullying and harassment or bullying and harassment. And some of these cases are I'm so surprised because it wouldn't even come across as bullying and harassment. It's just people trying to find their way through the system, and it's sad. So managers, leaders, CEOs, directors really educating themselves, protecting the business. If managers feel that, look, I'm struggling, getting something across someone, or maybe they need to educate themselves on how they come across to their team members. Speak to
Yeah,
someone in the team, obviously at that executive level, do some research, see what training's out there, and educate yourself. find out how you can communicate better, dealing with different personalities. There's so much different training available out there. And, a lot of it can be done online these days.
And it's a huge thing for a business because a bullying claim is expensive. It is expensive and it's also not nice. It is not nice for a person to perceive that they are being bullied, whether it's just a perception or whether it's, well, I mean, whether it's a perception or not,
Mm,
that person is experiencing something harmful. Actually, a lot of research has sort of suggested that leaders are mostly unaware of how they are coming
mm,
across. And so they might have the best intentions in the world, but it isn't being received in the way that they want it to be received. And so, really helping leaders understand how they are being perceived is a really useful skill. Actually, McKinsey and Group did a report on what was the most valued leadership skill that a leader could work on in order to increase the positive climate of the team. And it was, relationships. There's this idea of quality relationships. And that comes into this interaction. Like, how do I interact with this person in a way that's going to get the best out of them? And it really comes down to knowing the person, giving a damn about the person, really. And I think that's what these young ones want, isn't it? They want to be seen and heard for who they are. Sometimes they can get a little bit too big for their boots. I remember working with
this is true.
with someone once, and they kind of were, they'd done all the study, they'd got the masters, it was amazing what they've achieved, and so came into the role going, cool, I'm sort of ready to do this, and I'm like, I hear you, I love the energy that you're putting out. I also, you need to start where you're at, and you need to do not a lot of leaders have this thing of, well, I went through the hard yards, so these people have to go through the hard yards too. And it's hard coming when you have gone through the hard yards, you're like, yeah, that's the way to do it. But it's not necessarily what that is. It's really sort of saying, well, we got to start where you're at. And I know you've done all this university study, and you've got, these degrees. This is the real world, and let's walk before we can run, and show me that you can be responsible in these areas, and then we can build it up. So yeah, really sort of taming that energy, and I felt it too when I was young. I just wanted to be up there and speaking in front of people, and I never forget that there was this. I was at a train station on New Year's Day, well, it was New Year's morning. By the time I was on this train station, I think I was fresh out of school, and I was talking to this other person on the train station. He's like, "Oh, what are you gonna, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Oh, I want to do keynote speaking." And he was like, "Oh, cool, that's great." He goes, "So you're like 18? What have you got to keynote about?"
Good question.
And I was like, that's a really good point. I don't know, just like, I don't know." And he's like, "I think you probably have to have a bit of life experience or whatever, or you kind of, you have to have something to say." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point." And he didn't completely diss my dreams and in your face because I'm a keynote speaker now, but um, he had a point. You kind of you do have to have a little bit of patience on your side. So how do we help these people coming in right now have that bit of patience, but also treating them with that respect, so that they're not perceiving you as just because you're asking them to do their job. A lot of people say, "I'm just getting them to do their job," and it comes back to what you said before. It's how are you asking them?
Yes. Yeah.
How are you speaking to
And
them?
it's funny that, you just use that as an example because, well, that story, because there's employees coming out of, uni, for example, and, they've been at 3, 5 years studying at uni, and this is their first time really in a work environment. Maybe they were working in retail or like Macca's or something like that. Whereas, now they're actually working in a more of a corporate world. You've got all that knowledge, from uni, but it's different. Working in the environment is completely different. You know, you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with clients, you're dealing with customers. So I think from a manager perspective, it is hard because some managers don't even have that qualification or degree. They've just got promotion after promotion, promotion, because when they started, they were really good at that job. And someone young's come in, they're all keen to get going and they know everything. And it can be overwhelming for a manager. You just got to think you're the manager, you have to take the reins, you're the one in control. You just have to take a deep breath and just be mindful, you know, how's your approach, your tone, how are you speaking? You don't want to diss for all the training and education and all the work that they've been doing either. But utilize, give them a project, give them a task, let them run with it. Give them a week's deadline to see if they work with it and see what happens. Give them a little bit of a challenge, but you got to see what works. And if something's not working, it's got to change.
Yeah. Oh, that's really great. So, Christine, if there was something that you'd like the listeners to take away, a tool maybe or a skill, or what would you suggest that they think about to help engage the newer workers, the younger workers?
I think just be mindful. You know, everyone has a personal life outside of work, and some circumstances are horrible, you know, and maybe you've asked them nicely to do something and then all of a sudden they've started crying, you know. Whereas if you understand the background and sort of where they're coming from and why they're a bit more emotional, but at the same time, you know, if they're always angry, if they're abusive, that's a whole different kettle of fish. So I think you've got to take it as it comes, but definitely your approach. If something's not working, try something else. Don't keep going back. Okay, that's not working. Maybe speak to someone else, speak to another manager in a different department. Oh, how do you run your meetings? Or how do you get your guys to do that? Um, you know, speak to HR. If you have a HR department, they're amazing. Get some advice from them. You know, they'll give you some guidance. If not, jump online, do a bit of research. There's a lot of information out there.
I love that. That's such sound advice. Like, absolutely use your peers,
Mm.
use your support in HR. Because yeah, if your approach is not working, do something different. What is it? Einstein has that the quote: "The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result." And I think that's because we don't have the time or the energy. We kind of fall into that default, don't we? We kind of just keep, well, maybe it'll work this time, and it's like, well, it hasn't worked the other 60 times. It might be time to do something different. So yeah, keep mindful about your approach and change it up if you need it. I think that's really sound advice. Thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with me. It's been really great to have you on, and yeah, wonderful to hear about your experience and the way we can engage our younger workers because they're our future.
They are. They definitely are. Thanks, Charlotte. It was lovely.
Opinions and information shared on this podcast are for general purposes and should not be considered as specific advice or services.